What's going on, lads and lassies? It's Ocean back again with the South Stand for another video. And look, we're taking a point away from Selhurst Park, a very, very good point at that. And it leaves us after game week 4 in the Premier League in 7th spot. Can you believe that? Can you believe we're talking about Sunderland being in 7th after 4 weeks in the Prem? Now, I will caveat that by saying it's, of course, only 4 weeks into the Premier League season, so I doubt we'll stay there for very long. But for just now, we're still above Newcastle, so we can celebrate. And just before we get into this one, guys, I do want to say thank you for everyone who's been tuning into the channel so far, leaving comments, getting involved, subscribing, just starting to build a bit of a community around here, and it's been brilliant so far, so thank you for that. And as always, this video is brought to you by the southstandclothing.com. We've got all sorts of hats, like, I'll show you this one. It's a little corduroy Away the Lads number. Can you see it? There you go. A little corduroy Away the Lads number. We've got all sorts of different colours and stuff. Plenty of t-shirts to get involved in too. We've got some red Away the Lads ones. We've got some, of course, for Regis Labrie, the big man, a Reg Labrie shirt. That's actually our best-selling shirt, so go and get involved. The southstandclothing.com. You can save 20% off with your first order using the code WELCOME20. That's all for the intro on this one. Let's get right into things. So as I said in the introduction, it was a fantastic point to take away from a difficult opposition in Crystal Palace. They're going into this team, I think it was 15 games unbeaten they are at Selhurst Park. It's an incredible unbeaten streak to go on at home. You know what you're getting yourself in for when you go down there. And as always, you're kind of expecting that Crystal Palace atmosphere and everything they bring. But let me just say, as someone who wasn't at the game and was watching it on television, I could hear Sunderland and I could hear the Red and White Army the whole way through, like from start to finish. You honestly, at times, would have thought it was a home game. But good on the fans for everyone who got down there and got involved. And I must say as well, how nice it is to come off the back of a draw, a decent draw at that, and actually go online and see some respectful fans on the other side. I don't know, it felt like every single game in the Championship or League One or wherever we've been, if we got a point, it was just the most bitter people online. And I get it, that's football, it's tribalism, that's why we support the game. But the Crystal Palace fans have been class from everything I've seen, so good on them. Love that one. But look, it would be impossible to start talking about this game against Crystal Palace without talking about the performance of the big man between the sticks, Robin Roofs. What a performance from the big man. He kept us in that. He fully kept us in that, because especially for that last 20 minutes, Crystal Palace were all over us. They were putting ball after ball, putting these passes through. They can cut you open within 3 passes, and we'll get into that in the times that they did do it. But I think overall, I mean, this man, I'm a little bit lost for words. He made 6 huge saves throughout that game there. And I think not only that, but we've seen it, the amount of times that he came out and collected these huge high ball crosses, collected them, super confident. Not one part about him looked scared to go and play there. And as well, you're talking about a man who's incredible with his feet. He's playing around defenders. He's more than comfortable coming to join Alderete and Mukiele in a bit of a high back line as well, which luckily we don't go too high with that. But the way he can step out between the 2 centre halves at 22 years old, and this is what you're forgetting. We've always obviously spoke about Anthony Patterson, and we'll all remember his performance at Wembley and everything that it gave us and our ability to play in the Premier League right now. But when you're looking at a goalkeeper like Roofs, who's 22 years old and has the full and complete trust of every centre-back, any defender in front of him, he has their complete trust. These are guys who have played for PSG, guys who have played the top of La Liga, the top of the German leagues, and they've got complete trust in this 22-year-old because he's shown them why you should trust him. Those 6 saves weren't just normal saves. They were huge. He single-handedly, I think he's he's actually prevented 2 goals just from his saves. So, without the goalkeeper making an exceptional save, those would have been goals. And he's already got 2 of them under his belt. Never mind the fact that he's already saved a penalty for his last week. To be talking about him, it feels like back in the day, the way that Vito Minone used to just scream at everyone and get so involved. It feels like him. And, he had some huge performances. We know that one against Chelsea back in the day, but this feels like the kind of second coming of another Sunderland goalkeeper. And we've had a few of them, a few decent keepers over the years. But yeah, honestly, I can't talk about him enough and just how amazing he was in that game. And to think that we're going into a full season with him, he's just been called up to the national team, the Dutch national team. Yeah, he's absolutely flying. We'll need to get a Robin Roofs t-shirt made up because the roof is on fire. The roof is on fire. Now, of course, finishing this game 0-0, I think overall it was a pretty fair result. Palace had their chances. Sunderland, I think the best that we did today was all of our defensive work and all of our off the ball work. When it came to how we attacked, we got up there and we got the chances. I don't personally think we're making enough of these opportunities and creating enough high quality chances, but we'll get onto that in a bit. I want to talk about all the things that we did well first because there's a number of them. And to think we're talking about this 4 games into the season, just 4 games into the season, Sunderland have already managed to pick up 7 points. We've had some really strong performances. The one against Burnley, you learn your lesson, you move on. And even with this one today, like, you're coming away going, that's how good we are after 4 games. Then if this team stays fit, we're in for a good season. Like, there's lots of things to get better at. There's connections that will grow stronger over the season. But the fact that we're here after 4 games, incredible, and just it shows the fantastic work that Regis Labrie and the rest of the team do in making sure all these players can play on mostly the same page. But look, let's get into all the good stuff that we did today. Defensively, off the ball, let's just start from there because Crystal Palace took the ball and straight away it was clear how Sunderland were going to defend, compact and still in a bit of a high line. Like, it wasn't the type of game where we go, right, okay, we learned a lesson against Burnley, let's go away to Palace, sit deep and just sit in this low block. It wasn't like that. We were compact and we were defensively solid, but it wasn't necessarily low. You seen that Wilson was leading the line with Adingra and then Diarra actually joining him. It wasn't Talby that was joining him most of the time, it was Diarra. But I think for me, that was actually the better decision, that he just offered that extra physical presence. His height adds a little extra something. He's, the same kind of size, build-wise, as what Wilson is. He's a little bit more clever when it comes to knowing where to be and when to be there, for the most part anyway. So they three led the front line like that, and it meant that Palace had to push the ball out wide because Sunderland were pretty much man for man all the way through the middle. It was a fantastic day at the back for our 4 defenders. It was a fantastic day at the back. I think it's pretty clear to see the quality that Mukiele and Alderete bring into this team. Mukiele spoke after the game and he said that he'd actually played against Mateta, pretty sure in Germany and France. Pretty sure that's right. But he knew how he played, he'd kind of studied him a bit, and he was able to keep him quiet all day. And Jean-Philippe Mateta is a fantastic striker, and he's a real big physical lad. Although, saying that, a big physical lad who I felt dropped to the ground too softly a number of times that day. But Mukiele was all over him, he had him sorted. And then Alderete, on the other hand, he is so much quality on the ball. Like, we've seen it a few times, been able to pass around, he's been able to play around a high press from Palace. Like, Palace are good pressers, they're up in your grill quickly as well. You need to know what to do with it. And each time he could take the ball, whether he had to move past the defender, or he could just pass anywhere he wanted to. He's so good on the ball, and wow, what an underrated sign to think that we get that whole back line, I'm pretty sure, including Robin Roofs, for less than 30 million. What incredible work. And we're talking as well about Mukiele playing there. His favoured position is the right back role as well. But look, I think Trey Hume's work is going a little bit unnoticed this year. It's easy to kind of get caught up in the glitz and the glam of all of our new signings, but you're talking about a lad who's went from League One to the Premier League and, in my opinion, stepped up pretty well. Although we've not seen him be able to be fully involved and as influential as he was for his last season in the Championship, because a lot of our balls into the box relied on Trey Hume last year. And to be honest, I think that's what he does best. He is great on the ball. We miss those sliding tackles and those kind of big moments that make you remember how good Trey was throughout the year last year. But in this year, he's kind of stepped up and he's done it in a more matured way. It's not about him flying in and getting cards. It's not about him just flying in on those harsh challenges, which we've known to love him for, and we love him up here for it. But I don't think he's even had a card this year so far, and that's not very Trey Hume-like. So the fact that he's managed to take to the Premier League, adapt to these better quality players that he's even playing against, and do it well, not getting carded, not getting himself into trouble, just stepping up in like a quietly solid way. And don't let that go unnoticed. He's completing 70% of his passes as well. Really getting involved in that sense. For me though, I would like to see Regis try and bring Trey into the game a little bit more and bring that passing game that he had last year back into play. But I guess we have played a lot of the times in the build-up through the left-hand side. So I wonder if that's for a reason. Is it by chance or by purpose by Regis? I'm not sure on that one, but I think Trey Hume's got a lot to offer in terms of getting the ball into the box. I'd like to see that a little bit more. We'll get onto that later, and I'll talk about what I mean in terms of how Sunderland are crossing the ball and the chances we're creating. We'll get onto that, but I think Trey Hume could play a big part in that. But look, as I said, out of possession, really well drilled. I think Palace found themselves having to really wait and be patient for Sunderland to make a mistake in terms of jumping out at the wrong time or anything like that. Sunderland really did well in terms of defending off the ball. But there was a handful of times that Palace managed to cut us open, and this is something I want to talk about. So look, I tweeted during the game how much I love Noah Siddiqui. I love Noah Siddiqui. However, between him and Habib Diarra, there was a huge chance that Palace managed to create, and it was because both of them never tracked the runner. So let's get into that one. Around the 34-minute mark, Siddiqui receives the ball over on the left-hand side, so Sunderland's left, Palace's right. Siddiqui receives the ball over there and is under immediate pressure from Pino, so he manages to just pass it back to Alderete, and the ball makes its way over to the far side. Now, in this time, Siddiqui is then been kind of tied. He started man marking Pino, and he's on him there. You'll see though that Will Hughes is allowed to drift from the left well over to that far side and pick the ball up when Palace get back in possession over on that far side. He's managed to drift over that way because Habib Diarra hasn't followed the movement. He hasn't tracked the runner. And by the time he has tracked him, it's too late. Will Hughes is able to get the ball, pass it back to Kamada when he feels the pressure coming on him from Habib Diarra. But Kamada's got that quality, one touch pass, boom, straight out, straight through the middle to Pino. And if you know what we just talked about there, Siddiqui was supposed to be tracking Pino, and he switched off for 2 seconds, and Pino just makes this easy run. Not one Sunderland player can get to him because Alderete, Ronaldo and Mukiele, they're all already man marking. They've got their players. So you've got Mukiele on Mateta, you've got Ronaldo on Munoz, I think it was, and then you've got Mukiele over on the right. So they're all occupied, and then Pino's able to just make this run straight through the middle, receive the ball, and luckily puts it wide because of Robin Roofs and his ability to be there in the right position. But that doesn't happen if Siddiqui and Diarra are able to track the runner and able to keep up with him there. So that moment and like kind of lapse in concentration really did cost us, and they could have easily been 1-0 up in that first half. So these are the moments that we need to really switch on to and making sure that we are there and we are concentrating the whole way through, because those are two pretty obviously dangerous players allowed to just get through the middle of Sunderland after working so hard to keep the middle of the field compact. The game had been dragged out to the side and they created a hell of a lot of room through the middle through untracked runners. So we need to be switched on to those things. And I think Diarra and Siddiqui would have the capabilities to keep them under control if they were there, but they weren't there. So they couldn't do nothing about it. But yeah, I think defensively, other than that, those couple of times like that, Sunderland were solid. We packed the middle of the park, kept it moving. We packed the middle of the park, but we didn't sit back. It wasn't a low block. We still gave ourselves the chance and opportunity to go and attack. And I think it was clear from Sunderland and Regis Labrie in particular the whole game through. He wanted to win that game still. You've seen it when he kept Wilson on and took off Adingra. Kept Wilson on, took off Adingra and brought on Broadway. That was still like the 80 odd minutes. So you could see that Sunderland felt the game was there to be won and they're not shying away from anything. And I think there's just that little bit missing from that in that sense. But realistically, Sunderland done fantastic defending off the ball, on the ball. They've done a good job. I think though, for me, there is a couple pieces just missing going forward. When that team lineup came out and we found out a couple hours before the game that Enzo Lefebvre was injured, because there'd been a rumour online. There was a rumour on X that Enzo was out, but it'd been kind of brushed off. Brigitte never spoke about it in the press conference, just brushed it off as if nothing had happened. And then next thing you know, he's not named in the team list. He's not even came to Selhurst Park because of a slight knock. I hope that isn't too serious, because I think with Enzo Lefebvre in this game, we win it. And that's a big sentence to say. That's a bold sentence to say. I understand that. It's easy to say in hindsight as well, but what Enzo brings to us and his ability to get Sunderland linking up going forward, how hard he works off the ball as well, because I don't know if it's just me. Let me know in the comments if you agree with this. Adingra gets up and down the pitch and defends off the ball in that sense, but when he's got his man in front of him, he never actually makes the tackle. I'm yet to see him. He'll get there and he'll track back, But there's no point in tracking back if you're never going to put the tackle in. Whereas Enzo is never afraid to get in and stick that tackle in, and he's good at it as well. He does it with accuracy. But I think he just gets in and doesn't actually put the tackle in. So it's, yeah, for me, I would have Enzo Lefebvre on that left wing. Because for all the fantastic work we did defending, you can see there's a little bit of creativity missing in attack when Sunderland go forward. I hope as this channel builds and the community starts to grow and you understand me more as a football fan, because that's what this is. I'm a football fan. I'm a massive Sunderland fan. This is why I literally spend my whole life watching the games and trying to understand more and study. I hope you understand that I feel like I'm a fairly balanced person when it comes to football and football commentary in that sense. I don't really tend to find myself getting too sucked into any idea too quickly. I think I'm fairly balanced. I can see the good points. I can see the bad points. But that probably just comes from my own personal experience. I've never worked in football, but in my own life, I have worked in management pretty much my whole career. And I think with that, you just learn to understand that when it comes to anything that you're doing, whether it be football or anything else, to get better, you've got to acknowledge and accept the things that you're doing wrong and figure out how to get them better. And that's all this is. So don't think that I'm just bashing on the lads because we never won. It's not like that at all. I think a balanced view. We've done some great things defending, but attacking, there's something missing going forward. So here's what I can see from my perspective. Let me know if you agree with this. How did you see it? Is there something that I'm missing? Point it out in the comments below. I'm trying to build a community and try to talk about Sunderland in like a positive sense. I know that it's not always sunshine and rainbows. We've been through a hell of a lot in the last 8 years, but I think I'll never be unhappy with where we're at the minute. We're in the Premier League. We're playing a good, decent football with a bunch of lads that want to play for us. There's just always these wee things that I want to get better. So let me know if you agree with me for these following things, right? With Adingra and Talby and us no longer playing with inverted wingers, it's something that's been a little bit hard to get used to. And I think it does do a few things. Obviously, it certainly changes our style of play. When you reflect back to Sunderland a lot of last year, we did cross the ball in a lot and we did get those balls in the box, but think about where someone like Trey Hume would cross the ball from. Think about even this season, for example, when Sunderland have crossed the ball in and had an effective cross, so we've scored from the cross. Where's the cross came from? It's never came from those bottom corners. It's never came from those far deep positions. You're talking about Alderetti's cross for Mayenda. Alderetti's cross for Mayenda came kind of close to the halfway line. You're talking about Adingra's cross for Ballard. Again, wasn't down in the far corner. It was that little pocket of space further back. And then you talk about Xhaka's cross for Wilson. Again, not down in that far corner. It's that little space back. But on days like today, you're getting someone like Talby or Adingra, mainly through Adingra, because we seem to be building up a lot of the play through the left-hand side. But these crosses are coming in right down the bottom corner. And by the time they go in, when you stop at it and look at it, it's really only Wilson in the box. And I love Wilson, but he's not able to beat 5-6 defenders every time he's there. So, look, for one particular one, let's talk about around the 40-minute mark, we see Talby scuff that shot. And I think a lot of people talk about how's Talby missed that or he needs to do better with that. But when you rewind the footage a little second and properly look at it, so you'll see that Adingra receives it, beats his man, and then goes to swing in the box. Goes to swing in the cross. I'm going to actually move here and see if I can do some sort of diagram to the side here to show you what I'm talking about, right? Adingra gets the ball on that left-hand side, beats his man and goes to swing the cross in. And if you pause the footage at this exact second, you'll see that Palace have basically got their entire forward back line with Wilson sat in the middle. Then you've got Hughes and... So you'll see Palace have got their full... At the moment that Adingra is going to cross the ball, you stop it right then. Just before he hits it in, you'll see that Palace have got their back four there with Wilson in the middle. Then just in front of the back four, still in the box, you've got Hughes and Lerma. How in any world is Wilson going to get that ball to score? He's just not. The ball manages to scuffle over the top of them and then make its way out to Talby, who's at the back post. But you'll see that Habib Diarra and Noah Siddiqui, Habib Diarra is sitting just inside the box, Noah Siddiqui is sitting just outside the box. At that moment, if Adingra is able to lift his head up and play that ball out to Siddiqui, Sunderland have suddenly got 3 or 4 more options to then go and score a goal, other than that one kind of low quality chance that Wilson gets to flick his head on that and get it in. If we're going to play with those wingers that are going all the way down to the byline before crossing it in, we need to get more people in the box. Having Siddiqui and having Diarra sit just outside there. So, for example, if he passes it out to Siddiqui, Siddiqui's got the option then to drive forward 3 or 4 yards and then shoot himself. He can pass it out to he can pass it over to Habib Diarra, who realistically is in acres of space and actually has some angles at goal. Or he can then get it through to Talby once the players have moved. There's so many more options. You can play it through to Wilson at his feet, who, well, we know Wilson can be tricky in the box. He needs one chance to shoot and he'll be good. One chance and he'll get it on target. And it's one of those ones where we're swinging it in through a Dingra or through Talby and there's no one in there to join Wilson. And if he can just lift his head up, if a Dingra can just lift his head up that 2 seconds, there's so many more chances there. And I wonder how much of this is through coaching, because we are no longer playing with those inverted fullbacks. Is it through coaching that they want us to drive it through to the byline and then cross it in? Because if that's the case, then Habib Diarra and no Siddiqui need to be joining Wilson in that instance. He can't get his head on the ball with 6 Palace players around him. But if there's more Sunderland bodies in the box able to cause that disruption, then maybe he can. But right now we seem to be sitting in between both of those styles of play. We're not giving it to the person who's rushing the box late on across the ground, and then we're not also joining the box in time that it's worth crossing in from that angle in the first place. So yeah, there needs to be some sort of in between there. For me, when you're looking at Sunderland's ability to head and get a chance to goal through heading, all of it comes when the person crossing the ball is able to sit that 10 yards further back. So where Xhaka across from, where a Dinger across from for the Ballard header, or even where Alderete crossed for my Enders header. When we are able to get the ball there and then cross, we're able to match that opposition team with numbers and have numerous chances. Think about where Dan Ballard scored that goal from, that header in the opening game. There was 3 or 4 Sunderland players in line with 3 or 4 West Ham players. So we had ample numbers and opportunity to get that ball in there. But right now, driving the ball down to that byline and then crossing it in for just Wilson, it's not going to work. And I don't think it's how Sunderland will play best. So whether we're able to offer that support to our wingers through Siddiqui coming out wider, through Habib coming out to join them, or even bringing up the likes of Xhaka, can we bring in someone like Trey Hume or Ronaldo? Both of them have got brilliant abilities to cross the ball in the box. And if we can think about pushing our wingers all the way to that byline and then having those options in the slightly inside channel, about 10 yards back, having those options like Trey Hume, that is his perfect spot to cross the ball in. We've seen him do it a million times. That little clipped, lofty ball over the top that just curves in enough for someone to get ahead on. That's Sunderland at their best. So I'd like to see them trying to look for these opportunities more rather than just getting it to the byline and swinging it in, unless we're going to get the bodies in the box for them. If we can support Wilson by having 3 or 4 Sunderland players in there, especially when Big Dan Ballard gets back, go for it. But for right now, that's not going to work unless we're able to join them up with some support. But look, in conclusion, I think that was a fantastic point to come away from Selhurst Park with. I am one of those people that fully respect everything Palace are. That is like the Premier League standard of opposition, and we did well. We went toe to toe, and that's pretty much 3 out of the 4 games now. You can say Sunderland have really showed their quality and showed that they're a deserving Premier League team. That's more than I could have ever asked for coming into the start of this season, especially when you know we're going to get better each week. And look, before we go, we'll quickly touch on the quick appearances of Geertruida and Brobbey, because they both had some pretty decent starts. We didn't get to see too much from them. I think what really was the most interesting part of all was that Geertruida was brought in central midfield. And as we know, he played a lot more of his minutes at right back before, so it was more questionable whether it was Hume that would be getting replaced. But he looked decent. He looked decent in the middle. Big physical presences, both of them. I think Brobbey had a couple of passes where his touch was kind of leaving you questioning him. But look, first game, it was lashing it down at Selhurst Park at some points in that second half. It's just not the kind of game where you want to be making your appearance and show off your close control. But this actually adds to the reason why I am so impressed with the Sunderland point, because it was one of those games where the ball's able to zip across the park so quickly with that rain. It just takes 2 seconds, and it's like one of those days that the rain can cause you to just whatever. Somehow the ball ends up in the back of the net. It's just one of those days where weather like that makes me nervous, especially in the last 20 minutes when QPR are bombarding you. QPR, sorry, Crystal Palace are bombarding you time and time again. But overall, a fantastic point for Sunderland, a well organised drill team who are going to take a lot of points off teams if that's how we play away from home this season. I mean, winning like we do at home and then taking a point away from home, that's easy days. Give me that all day. I'll take that every day of the week. But look, it's obviously not how it's going to work every time. But Sunderland have got a lot to offer this season, and I think that game against Crystal Palace just showed that that was our biggest test so far this year. And I'm just really impressed, to be honest, with how they did. I think they showed why we're a Premier League team now, and the lads all stepped up. They feared nothing and just went for it. And I think with those little bits getting better in that final third, being able to just link together these pieces that little bit more, we're sorted. But so far, so good. Honestly, 7 points from 12. Could not be happier. Howie the lads, come on. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me again for this video. If you have liked it, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. The community is starting to grow over here at the South Stand. And as always, please go and check out the southstandclothing.com for all of your Sunderland fan wear, merch, everything going out this year. It's going to be a good season, lads. And we'll be back later on this week with the Aston Villa preview. So make sure to check into that one. It'll probably be up on Wednesday or Thursday night. But for just now, how are the lads? Come on.